Today you're going to learn how to create error messages inside your website, and this is going to continue off the previous episode where I talked about error handlers inside PHP. So if you didn't watch the previous episode, I recommend you guys go back, watch it first, and then return to this episode here. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to show you guys a form, which is essentially a sign-up form inside a website. And when the user submits the form, depending on the error message that they might receive, we're going to display it inside the website, okay? So as you guys can see in front of me here, I have a very basic form that has a input set to first name. Then we have another input set to last name, email, username, and password. Essentially the information we need when we sign somebody up inside a website. Now when the user submits the form, the information gets sent to a signup.inc.php file, which is the file that takes the information from inside the form and does something with it, okay? And we're sending it using a post method. So inside the sign-up form, you guys can see that at the top here, we have a basic check that checks if the user actually clicked the button when they enter this page, because you can actually go inside the URL, go into this signup.inc.php file without actually clicking the button and run the code even though you didn't actually click the form. So we want to avoid that people actually sign themselves up inside the database without actually having clicked the form. So this is the first check that we're doing inside our sign-up form here. Now the second thing we're going to do is we're going to include the database connection. And again, we're not using a database in this example, but if we were to have a database, this is where we would actually connect to it. And then we get the data from the form. Now down here, we do something with the data, such as checking if some of the inputs were left empty, which is one of the error handlers we have down here. We also make sure to check if some of the characters are not valid inside the code here. And we didn't do this one in the previous episode, so if you guys want to have this preg match function that checks for characters, just go ahead and copy what I have here, okay? Now we also have a check down here that checks for a valid email. So if your email address is not a real email address, then it's going to throw an error message as well. And then finally down here we have an else statement that signs the user up if there was no error messages inside the script here. Now I just want to mention that there's a lot more error handlers we could use inside the script, but I just want to demonstrate how we can use error handlers and how we can get error messages inside our website. So I'm not going to show you guys all the examples of all the error handlers you might have inside a sign-up script. If you guys want to see more of these, go ahead and check out my login system tutorial, which is a few episodes from now, okay? So what I want to do and what I want you guys to notice is that when there is an error message, I'm not simply echoing out, you made a mistake. I'm actually taking the user back to the front page using a header function, and then I'm closing off the script to make sure that no other else statements and checks in here actually continues, because we just want to close off this entire script here. And when the user goes back to the front page, it's going to go to index.php, $signup equal to empty, at least for the first check here with the empty inputs they might have typed in. Now, when it does that, inside the index page, we need to grab this data and then do something on the page depending on what it says inside this data here. Now, what I want you guys to notice is that we could essentially just have deleted the signup equal to part and just said empty. But by including the signup equal to, we're actually creating a get method inside our index page, meaning that we can actually grab the data inside once we go back inside the index page using the same way as we did up here. Okay, just using a $_ get instead of post, okay? Just gonna go ahead and reset everything. Now again, if you guys don't have the code here, just go ahead and watch the previous episode and then copy the code from in there. Or you can go ahead and download the lesson files in the description of this video here, okay? So what I want to do now is I just want to show you guys how the form actually works inside the website. Because if we were to go inside the website, you guys can see I have the sign up form here. I didn't mention that I did actually include a style sheet inside my index page, so that's why you can actually see that the website has been styled just slightly, okay? I'm going to zoom in for you guys so you can actually see what's going on. And what I want to do now is I want to click the sign up button without actually typing anything in, because in the URL, it should say sign up equal to empty. Okay, so when I click it, you guys can see it says index.php, sign up is equal to empty. Meaning that right now it should display an error message depending on what is being said inside the URL. Okay, now another thing we're going to do at the end is if I were to type something in and something goes wrong, if I were to go back to the index page, all the data that they typed in is going to be deleted. So we want to make sure that they still have the data once they go back to this page here. Again, we're going to do that at the end here. So what we're going to focus on now is just getting an error message. So what I want to do is I want to go inside my code, and we have two ways we can do this. I'm going to show you guys one method that we could get the error message, and then afterwards I'm going to show you guys the second method. Okay, so we're going to go underneath the form here because I want to display the error message underneath the form. So I'm going to open up my PHP tags, like so. And the first thing I want to do is I want to get the full URL. So I can actually see if we have a certain string inside the URL. And if we have a string that matches with what we're searching for, then we're going to throw some kind of error message. So I'm going to say we have a variable called full URL equal to, and then we're going to set equal to a string. And inside the string, we're going to say http $$server, which is a super global that we can use in order to actually get the URL. And then we're going to get the website host. So we're going to go inside the brackets and say http_host, which is the first part of the URL. And then afterwards, we're going to get the $_server brackets. And inside the brackets, we're going to get the request _URI. And now we should have the full URL from the browser. We'll actually echo this variable. We'll actually get the entire URL. Okay. Underneath here, I'm going to go ahead and create an if statement because I want to check if we have a certain string inside this URL. So I'm going to say we have a function called string position, or strpos, parentheses. And inside here, the first parameter is going to be the actual URL. So we're going to get full URL. The second one is going to be the string that we want to search for. So in this first one, I want to search for if any of the fields were left empty. And again, when we get sent back to the website using the first error handler, you guys can see that it's going to say sign up equal to empty. So I'm just going to copy that, go back inside my index page and paste it in. So what this does is that it says, okay, if we have this string inside the URL, then it's going to tell us the position of the string inside the URL. But we can't really use that for anything. So instead, we need to check if we even have the string or not. So we're going to go after this function here, string position, and set it equal to true. So we're checking if this one is inside the URL, then do something inside the if statement. Okay? Inside the if statement here, I'm then going to say that we want to echo a string because we just need to create an error message, and then we can say something like you did not fill in all fields, exclamation mark. And what we can also do, and again using styling, I did actually create two classes that would turn the text green or red. So I'm just going to go back inside my code here and create a paragraph tag around my string here, just so we have some kind of coloring or something going on so the user can see if they did something wrong or if they actually signed up successfully. So I'm just going to say we have a paragraph and a class that's equal to single quote, and insert a class called error because that's what I created inside my style sheet. Also going to close off the paragraph over here like so. And what we do now is basically just copy this, paste it underneath here, create an else if statement instead, and then we check for another string inside the URL. So we can go back inside our signup.inc.php, take the next one, which is character, so char, go back inside the index page and paste it inside instead of the sign up equal to empty. Copy paste. We're going to do this 2 more times. So I'm just going to paste it down twice. Take the next one, which is sign up equal to email, which is also an error message because I didn't type in a valid email. And I'm just going to change the text on the top 2 here. So we're going to say you used invalid characters and just paste it here and just copy it here because it's just about the same. We're going to write down here. We're just going to say you used invalid email and invalid email, just to type it correctly. And the last one down here is going to be the one that checks if we had a successful sign up. Again, the rule of thumb here is that you always need to check for success last inside a script. So we're just going to go ahead and do that here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this one to sign up equal to success, which is what I have inside my sign up form. And I'm going to change the text down here to you have been signed up. And then I'm going to change the class to success because that's what I have inside my style sheet. Now, one last thing we should do here as well is to include a exit function inside each of these if statements afterwards, because if the first if statement actually is true and we throw some kind of error message depending on what it says in here, then we don't need to run the rest of the scripts down here. So we just want to exit this script and just not run them at all because it's a waste of time. So I'm just going to include that inside here as well. Like so. Now we're going to go back inside the website, refresh. And as you guys can see, it already says you did not fill in all fields because we did already try and submit the form up here, as you guys can see. If I were to delete and just go back to the front page like normal, you guys can see there's no error messages. I click the button. We now have an error message that says you did not fill in all fields. If I did fill everything in, like so, like so, like so, you guys may notice that the email address is not valid. So when I click, it says you used an invalid email. Now, if I were to actually go up and try and sign everything in correctly, so I'm going to say, Daniel Nielsen, use mmtuts@gmail.com, which is my email, and just some random username and password, click sign up. You guys can see it now says you have been signed up, and I can actually see I did a spelling mistake here. Let's actually go and fix that. You got signed up, okay? So this was the first method we can use in order to create error messages inside a website. Now the second method here might be a little bit better when it comes to making the website a bit user-friendly, because if I were to create an error in here, I'm just going to fill in everything again, sign up, you guys can see it deletes everything inside the sign up form when I get taken back to my error message. Now if I were to just maybe create an invalid email, then it would suck for me as a user if I had a huge form inside the website I need to fill out, and then just because I make one mistake in the email address, everything gets deleted and I have to fill everything out once more. Okay, and we don't want to give the user that bad experience. So what we can do here is, I'm just going to show you guys one example with the email. You guys can just go ahead and repeat the process to do the other error handlers. But what we're going to do here is I'm going to go back inside my index page and comment out all we did inside the PHP code here. Now the first thing we're going to do in here is we're going to just repeat everything we did here, but using a second method that might be a bit better. So I'm going to go down underneath the code here that I just commented out. And in this example, we don't need to get the entire URL of the website, which is kind of nice. Instead, because we did actually say sign up equal to some kind of data, which is a get method, we can go ahead and use the get method in order to get the error message. So the first thing I'm going to do is an if statement. And I'm going to check if we do actually have sign up set inside the URL. So if we don't have sign up equal to, then I'm not just going to run the code down here. Okay, so I'm going to say inside the condition, if we do not, by writing exclamation mark, have an is set, parentheses, set to $_get, brackets, called sign up, which again is the first data inside the statement we create a get method, which in this case is sign up. The second data is after the equal sign, which is success, okay? So inside here, I want to say, okay, if we do not have a sign up inside the URL, then I just want to exit the script here because I don't want to do anything, because the user apparently haven't submitted the form yet. But if the user actually submitted the form, then I want to create a else statement, curly brackets, and then I want to start running all the different error messages. So the first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to get the data from the sign up data inside the URL. So sign up is equal to something, and we need to get that piece of data that comes afterwards. Now we do that by going inside our else statement and setting a variable that we can call something like sign up check to check what kind of message we're getting, which is equal to $_get, brackets, single quotes, sign up, which again is the get method from inside the URL. And now this variable over here is going to be equal to whatever comes after the equal sign here. Okay, so afterwards, we can just simply do another if statement that checks if sign up check is equal to a certain string. So we're going to say if it's equal to, for example, empty, then it's going to run the code inside the if statement. So we can again just copy what we have up here at the top, the echo and the exit, where we echo out some kind of message. Just going to paste it in here, like so. And I'm going to do the same thing below here. Instead, we're just going to use an else if statement, of course, because we don't want to just keep running if statements. So I'm going to say else if. And we're going to change the string that we're checking for inside signup check to char, which is character. And then we're also going to change the error message inside the actual check here. I'm just going to copy the text from up here, paste it in, copy paste the entire thing 2 more times because we have 4 different checks. The second one is going to be email. And again, we just want to copy what we have up here. So we're just going to say you used an invalid email. We're just going to paste that in, like so. And the last one was the success message, like so. I'm just going to copy paste 1 more time. And there we go. Okay, now this should work the exact same way as the previous one we just did up here. So we'll go back inside the website, refresh. You guys can see it still says used an invalid email because I'm still inside the same page here with the error message. If I were to go back and just, leave something empty, it still says you did not fill in all fields. So it's still working in the same way as the previous one we just did. So what we can do using the get method inside the URL is that we can actually go ahead and if the user makes a mistake inside the form, such as not typing the correct email, send them back to the form and then take the data and take it back with him to the form and insert them inside the fields that he did not make a mistake in. Okay, so that way we won't have just empty fields when he comes back to the page here. So just to show you guys what I mean, and inside the signup form we can go to the part of the script that creates the error message for the email. And as you guys can see, we have signup equal to email inside the URL when we do actually get sent back. And we can go ahead and add more data to it if we want to. So I'm going to say and, or the ampersand symbol, and then I can add more get methods to it if I want to. So in this case, because the email is incorrect, I want to still give the user the rest of the data that he created inside the form. So I'm going to go up here and say, okay, the email was incorrect, so we're going to leave that one empty when we go back to the front page. But the other ones here might not be wrong. So I want to also send back the first name, the last name, and the username. I'm going to go ahead and leave the password empty because I think they should be able to retype that once they go back. But the other 3 here I want to send back to the front page so he doesn't have to fill them out again. Okay, so I'm going to pass these inside the URL and say and first is going to be equal to $first, which is our first variable. And we're going to say and last is going to be equal to $last, which is the last variable. And then the last one here we're going to include is the username. So we're going to say UID is equal to variable UID, like so. So now if we were to go back inside the website just to test it out, I'm going to just write a wrong email address, submit. And as you guys can see, we now have a bunch of data inside the URL up here. So what we can do now is I can go inside my index page, go to the top where we have the form, and I'm going to create an if statement around each input. So I'm going to say we have the first one up here, which is the first name, and create first of all, the PHP opening and closing tags because we need those. And then I'm going to go ahead and create an if statement. And I'm going to do the same thing as down here, where I check if we have a certain get method inside the URL, then it should go ahead and get the data from it and put it inside the input. Okay, so I'm just going to copy what we have in here, paste it up inside our condition, and not check for the sign up, but instead first, which is the get method that has a name as first, which is equal to the data we passed on to the form. And I'm going to go ahead and go inside my if statement here, and then I'm going to just copy the input from down here and echo it out inside here as a string, like so. And do pay attention to single quotes and double quotes because you don't want to get these confused by one another. And after the placeholder, include a value that is going to be equal to double quotes, the get method from inside the URL. Now we want to create a variable out from this one first, so I'm going to set a variable first, which is equal to the get method. And I'm just going to take this variable here then and paste inside the value here, like so. Now the last thing we're going to do here is I'm just going to go after the if statement, create a else statement, and say that, okay, if we did not have this set inside the URL, it apparently means that there was no error messages when it came to the first input here. So I'm going to just echo out the form that we have down here, which is the default form we didn't do anything to. So I'm just going to, again, echo inside the else statement. Make sure I use single quotes as my string. And I'm just going to delete the input down here, like so. So now, if we have the get method called first inside the URL, then it should go ahead and input it inside our input here. If we do not have it, then it's just going to leave it empty when we go back to the front page, okay? Now I'm just going to copy the if statement here and the else statement, go below here, and I'm going to do a second check for the last name. So I'm just going to copy the last name input we have down here and delete it. Insert it inside the two echoes, like so. And again, we're just going to include a value set to variable last. So I'm going to go after the placeholder, include it here. We need to change the variable to variable last. And again, we also need to change the variables up here so they match the get method inside the URL. So we're going to say last, like so. The last thing we need to do to the last name here is also change the isSet statement to last, because we want to check if we did actually have a last name inside the URL. And now what I want to do is I just want to copy paste this down to the username, because that's the last one we did actually want to check for inside the code here. So I'm just going to go down, create the PHP tags, so we can actually include it inside the tags here, paste in the if and else statement, and then just copy the username input down here, and paste it inside the echoes. So I'm just going to paste, and make sure we change the value inside the one we have inside the if statement, and want to change it to UID. Then we're going to change the variable up here to UID, and we also want to change the isSet statement to UID, like so. So now, if I were to go back inside the website, and just go back to the front page. Whoops, then we do actually get an error message. Let's go ahead and check what it says. It says undefined index first in line 13. So if we go back here, take line 13, we can see that we forgot to, we needed to change it from not set to set of course. So we're going to just delete the exclamation marks, because we don't want it to actually create a variable out from the get method if it doesn't exist, like so. Now, one more thing we need to change in here, which again is a mistake on my end, is that we cannot use variables directly inside a string like we did here. So we need to actually separate the PHP and the string. So we need to say single quotes around the data, and then add punctuation in between the single quote and the variables here. So we just need to copy what we did here and paste it on top of the rest of them, like so. And do the same thing here for the first part, like so. And like so. So now we have the variables like this should be inside the inputs here. So now if I were to go back inside the website, refresh just to reset everything, and then type in a proper first name, a last name, and then pretend we just messed up the email. So we're just going to write something random, write a username such as Danny45A, and then just a random password. If we were to sign up, you guys can see we still have the data inside the form once we come back, even though we have an error message. Okay, so this is one way you can create error messages and also keep the data inside the form if you were to create an error inside the website. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time.